Prime Minister of this country says he doesn't know who Taliban is. He feels Taliban are normal men. He can't distinguish between one and the other. Taliban has shuras. Where are the shuras? They're in Quetta, they're in Peshawar, they're in Miran Shah and all these other places. They're not in Mars. When Taliban was being given shelter by Pakistan this side, TTP was being given shelter on the other side by Taliban. TTP is well connected with the Afghan Taliban in the transit trade and drug money. So they're fundamentally full of cash. What does Pakistan seek? Why is it going to USA? Fundamentally, it is chasing money. It knows that if USA is not committed to this area, money will not come in.
Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. There is a lot happening in terms of Pakistan and Taliban. To discuss that, I have with me Lt Gen Ravi Shankar, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, a retired Director General from the Artillery. He's a strategic thinker and author of a blog called gunnershot.com. I'd recommend all of you to please have a look at his writings, where a lot of different thoughts are coming out with regards to the geopolitical scenario around us. Thank you, sir, for joining me for this, I think, very interesting debate or discussion about the Pakistan situation and, of course, their relationship with the Taliban and around their country.
Thanks a lot, Adi, for calling me over. I do understand that everyone's focus is on Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But equally, we need to look at what's happening in Pakistan. And, Taliban and Pakistan have their own dynamics, and I think we need to discuss it.
Absolutely, sir. So my first question is very simple. There was a interview that was done of Imran Khan, and he came out with some very, very interesting statements. So I'd like to, ask you, is Pakistan Taliban or is Taliban Pakistan? Because since Imran Khan could not distinguish between both of them, I was wondering if you could help us see that light.
That's a nice one. Yeah. Look, at the first, this thing, Taliban is Taliban and Pakistan is Pakistan. Okay. What is Taliban? Taliban are students. The basic fundamental thing is students, And who are these Taliban of? Of Pakistan. Right? If you go back into history, Ziaul Haq basically created the Mujahideen, right? And to fight against the USSR. He funded them. The CIA gave money. And they got hold of all Islamists to fight against, the Soviets. Now, these Mujahideen, once, the Soviets were defeated in the 80s, 79-80 period, were left high and dry. So, Mirza Alam Beg, their chief, and Hamid Gul, who keeps boasting that he's, defeated a superpower, and Pakistan has defeated a superpower, gave this great idea that convert this Mujahideen into Taliban. Ziaul Haq Islamized the AFPAC border or the Durand Line. A lot of madrasas, everything, and jihadism he brought into Pakistan. These guys converted this jihadi sentiment and the Mujahideen, put it into one and created Taliban. So Taliban is a creation of Pakistan. And this Taliban they use for, they brought it as a social movement, converted into a military movement to usurp power or hoist them into power in Afghanistan, so that Afghanistan, there's a client regime, their client regime, and they could rule Afghanistan as a surrogate state, so that the western border is secure and they have strategic depth against India. Remember, the fundamental motivation is against India. Right? So that's the relationship between, right? And it's very funny and it's ironic that the Prime Minister of this country says he doesn't know who Taliban is. He feels Taliban are normal men. He can't distinguish between one and the other. Consider this. You go into the net and put Taliban Khan. Right? Just type it out and say images. And you'll get a whole lot of cartoons depicting Mr. Imran Khan as Taliban.
Mm.
There must be some reason. And all these cartoonists are Pakistanis, not Indians, not Americans, not French, or not Chinese. They're all Pakistani. He was known as Taliban Khan.
Mm.
He's a Pathan. His base is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. He was once upon a time saying, no, these Taliban are good people. We should talk to them. You have to understand them and X, Y, Z. Today he says he doesn't know them. He can't distinguish one from the other. You know, he's normally known as Im the Dim. But he's not Im the Dim. He's also known as U-Turn Khan.
Mm.
Okay. But that's also not right. Taliban Khan fits him because that's what he is.
Yeah.
You know, Christine Fair, who is a famous author who's written about Pakistan Army, she calls him a political IED. That kahin bhi fat sakta hai, what he can do what he wants. So he's not a simple guy who, you know, just making statements off the cuff. It's all measured.
Mm.
So that's the relationship between Pakistan and Taliban. Even now, Taliban has shuras. Where are the shuras? They're in Quetta, they're in Peshawar, they're in Miran Shah, and all these other places. They're not in Mars. Right? Their families live there.
Mm.
They get treated there. You mean to say Pakistan and ISI and all that won't know where these fellows are? After all, Osama bin Laden was 1.5 kilometers away from, you know, Pakistan Military Academy at Abbottabad. He didn't drop from heaven. So there is a very clear we need to understand that Taliban is a protege of Pakistan, and there are enough reports. In fact, BBC has come out with a audio story called The Real Story. It's about 45 minutes clip in which it very clearly comes out that a lot of Pakistanis are now fighting as part of Taliban, and that includes LET, JUD, and, you know, all motley guys, then Chechens, Uyghurs, everyone. So where's the doubt? And if you hear that, it again very clearly says the Taliban leadership is a different kettle of fish. They're quite polished and fat and moneyed and all that. But at the grassroots level, these fighters are standard Islamist radical fighters. Okay. So there's no doubt. Let's not have any doubts.
Interesting. I like the way you put it across, standard Islamic jihadist fighters, and that's something which is very interesting to, you know, put it.
Yeah, it's a stereotype, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
it's actually creating a stereotype. You're right.
Yeah, it's a stereotype, and, you know, they create violence. They're against women. They're against women reading. They're against any kind of progress. They want to take back people to the Stone Ages, and we've seen it in Kashmir. This kind of radicalism.
Seen it all around the world, sir.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So,
yeah,
you know, you say his statements are pretty measured. I'm going to just, you know, contradict you here and ask you. There is someone somewhere having a hearty laugh on when he listens to Imran Khan. Why? Because to him, his statements might be very measured, but what gets perceived from the outside world is taken as fun, because at the end of it, it's made. He's ridiculed with regards these kind of things. India is, of course, laughing. A lot of the other countries are laughing as well, sir. But I'm sure we are not directing Imran Khan's statements. Who is and what is their motives?
See, fundamentally, Imran Khan is making a statement which apparently is idiotic. People don't mind, and he also probably doesn't mind that he's considered an idiot or in the dim or whatever it is. But the fact is that it is the deep state which is controlling this whole story. Okay, it's the deep state of Pakistan. They are the ones who sided with USA in this war against terror, and they are the ones who have sided and, you know, are propelling Taliban to where it is going. As simple as that.
Interesting. That is a simple way of putting it, sir.
Yeah, that's a simple way.
Yeah. So there's also a thing that, there's a thought process that says that if Pakistan today does not support the Taliban, they will be in trouble. If they do support the Taliban, they are in trouble. Do you agree with something like that, sir?
Look, it doesn't matter what Pakistan does. I think Pakistan is in trouble. Now, why? There are good reasons for it. Why did this Taliban come up? Why was Mujahideen converted into Taliban, repurposed into Taliban? You have to understand. While what I did say was that they wanted to put a client regime in Afghanistan, X, Y, Z against India. There's another reason, a very fundamental reason. If you look at the Durand Line, either side of the Durand Line are all Pashtuns. Okay. Now these Pashtuns never ever respected the Durand Line. That was almost a free border. It's called a soft border, but the Durand Line was. Now the Pashtun nationality or nationalism trumps whatever they call Pakistan or Afghanistan. There's always a demand, incipient demand for Pashtunistan. That is across both sides.
Yeah.
So the tribal loyalties are high. And there's a fierce independence movement within. It might not be a big coalesced movement, it is there. And these tribes are more loyal to themselves than the state. And that we have seen anywhere. Any tribe is more loyal to itself than the state. The clan, the tribe are the greater loyalties. Even the Northeast, we've seen it so much. Whether the Nagas or the Kukis or the Dimasas. The same story here. And that's the story even with Baloch, the tribals.
Yeah.
The tribal loyalty is higher than the. Now, this was there. This was, smoldering along the Durand Line. Now, what did Ziaul Haq do? By creating the Mujahideen, he forced their attention across the border. So the Pashtun nationalism was converted into a radical movement across to eject the Soviets and then to create this deep state. Now, when this deep state was created, X, Y, Z, after that, what? I mean, there's a vacuum. After these repurposed people had to go to that extent. Fine. Then the Americans came. They drove the Taliban out. And where did the Taliban come? They came to Pakistan. In all this, when the fight was again, when Taliban was at its weakest and they're being topped up, etc., 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 we have to remember that a whole lot of people, Pashtuns, from this side of Pakistan, also were part of the Taliban and Mujahideen. Now, these people have formed the Pakistan-Taliban, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Right? And they went over in early 2000, 2005, Fatah, Waziristan, all these places were in trouble. The entire Khyber Pakhtunkhwa was in trouble. Till about 2007, 2008, when Pakistan Army was committed there, and they were driven out. Where were they driven? They were driven into Afghanistan. Now again, here comes the loyalty. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban are twins.
Yeah.
The Afghan Taliban will take help from Pakistan, but will do nothing against TTP. They gave shelter to TTP, the other side. When Taliban was being given shelter by Pakistan this side, TTP was being given shelter on the other side by Taliban. A very funny combination. So now the TTP has come back. Right. Now the Taliban fundamentally earns money out of taxes, this, that, and all, drug money, and all the networks, everything, the transit trade, everything is taxed by Taliban. On the other side, in Afghanistan, it is the Taliban. On this side in Pakistan, TTP does it. TTP is well connected with the Afghan Taliban in the transit trade and drug money. So they're fundamentally full of cash. Arms have been there for long. In any tribal area, any tribal insurgency collects taxes and taxes everything which goes into that area. Okay. Even a government tax is taxed. I mean, okay. You want to enter a truck, it is taxed into that area. So all this is part of the game. Okay. So the TTP is now back in action. And the TTP now says we want an independent tribal area. Now that independent tribal area means that you'll have to commit Pakistan army there once again. So Pakistan is in trouble. Connected with the Pashtun Tahfuz movement. So far that Pashtun Tahfuz movement is all about Pashtuns. It's a peaceful movement. But that's a Pashtun movement. TTP is a Pashtun organization. If they get together, there's a political organization, the militant organization. See where it is, where it goes. And plus the fact that the Baluch rebels are already there. So the entire Durand Line is going to go up in flames. Add to this, Afghan refugees coming because of this Taliban action. And Pakistan doesn't have money today. Economically bankrupt, we know. How can it bear refugees? Today, Dawn says Pakistan has got its lowest FDIs in the past 6 months compared to Bangladesh, India, and everyone. There no FDI. Economy is going fat. So where does Pakistan go with all these refugees? And then any trouble across the border will spill over in Pakistan. Yesterday there was an encounter with some guys from Afghanistan firing onto Pakistan, and 3 soldiers have got hurt. Apart from the fact that there was a blast in Quetta where 2-3 people have died and 21 injured. And then you add the Chinese guys being knocked off. So this whole story is going, berserk. So whatever happens in Afghanistan and Taliban is one story. There's another story which is unfolding in Pakistan. And this story is well known to everyone in Pakistan. You open Dawn every day, there's a story on Afghanistan and Pakistan. So that is where Pakistan is heading.
The serious thinkers are pretty scared there. And what you mentioned about the TTP and the Afghan Taliban is, I think I'd like to remind people, the good Taliban and the bad Taliban concept
Bad Taliban.
Pakistanis try to sell to the world. Interesting, sir. So, Taliban Khan, I'm going to use that word, has been crying for a call from Biden for a long time. As a matter of fact, the NSA went there, tried his best. And there are statements coming out that Pakistan must be given what it deserves.
No.
Isn't ignorance what they deserve?
No, I don't think they should be ignored. What they deserve is something else. What they seek is something else. I'll come to what they deserve later. We'll talk about what they seek. What does Pakistan seek? Why is it going to USA? Fundamentally, it is chasing money. It knows that if USA is not committed to this area, money will not come in. I've told you the transit trade. Transit trade was a great source of money for Pakistan. That's gone. There's no more funding for Pakistan's role in Afghanistan. China is not putting money on the table. Who will give money? The West, UN. That the tap is being turned dry by USA. Moreover, they have refused bases to USA. They have told we will not give bases, you get out. They are also boasting, oh, we have defeated the second superpower. Now, after all this, will USA give money? Why should USA give money? Till the time there were boots on ground in Pakistan or in Afghanistan, US boots. USA was prepared to pay. They knew that every US guy I've spoken knew that Pakistan was double dealing with them. But they said, look, our men are there, we have to deal with Pakistan, we have no choice. That's not there anymore. So Pakistan, USA is free to do what it wants. So why should it give money to Pakistan now? It will not. And if money doesn't come, what does Pakistan do?
Hmm.
The last time USA walked away from the situation. This time the USA is not walking away from the situation. It's going to stay there and turn the screws. That is why President Biden has not called Taliban Khan. Very simple. Why should he call him and say, look, please do my job? Anyway, Pakistan is not doing US job anymore.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you said, what do they deserve? What do they deserve? Let's be very clear. You want to sort out Afghanistan. My long held view is sort out Pakistan.
Absolutely.
That's what they deserve.
Mhm.
And they'll get it. I mean, they're in the danger of getting it. That's my view. I might be wrong. Some time back, if you remember, there was an air attack on a Pakistani post
Yes.
in which 26 soldiers were,
Mhm.
vaporized or rather killed. Uh, at that time, everyone said it was a mistaken attack, X, Y, Z. But was it so? It might have been a signal to Pakistan at that time. Today, there is no need of a signal also. They'll just do it.
Yeah.
And they'll
Quietly.
claim it as a accidental fratricide. So if Pakistan steps out of line, they're in the danger of getting sorted out militarily for the first time. And what can China do?
Nothing.
Nothing. They can only say, okay, they'll issue out some statements, X, Y, Z, nothing more. And we must remember that the US guys are past masters at covert operations.
Yes.
So Pakistan will now face a problem from TTP, definitely, Baluch rebels, internal problems, economy, and of course now everyone knows that Pakistan has been double dealing. Everyone knows that Taliban is the creation of Pakistan. So why will Pakistan be left off? We discussed how the West, just before the FATF meeting, came out with all those
Yeah.
videos about Pakistan.
Well played, sir.
Everyone knows now. I mean, Pakistan is an exposed state for its duplicity.
Actually, they got kicked pretty hard in the OIC as well this time.
Yeah, right.
That is.
So that's what they deserve. Unfortunately, the deep state and all that, they still have greed. They still have that old thing that, look, if you want to sort out India, you have to first sort out, keep your back, safe, have strategic depth X, Y, Z. Unless Taliban is in the power sharing agreement there, they also know that if Taliban is hoisted into power, Western funding will dry out and it will not be recognized. So they'll want to put Taliban into a power sharing agreement with the current Afghan dispensation and keep undermining it somehow. Never let it succeed so that funds start coming in. Pakistan is very simple. The game is money.
Paisa.
Paisa.
Actually, I was going to ask you as the next question, sir. Some say that there's going to be a day when the US is going to find some targets in Pakistan and call it mistakenly attacked. And I think you put it across. I'm going to add.
Yeah, they will. They'll call it mistaken fratricide accident. And some of these things are probably happening already. Who knows? I mean, I won't put it past anyone to not do it. Maybe not now because USA is in the middle of a withdrawal from there. Many people say they're withdrawing, running away. Yeah, they messed up. Afghanistan is a different story. But I think they're moving out with a plan. And that plan will come out. They're not going to leave. Whatever it is, they have a plan. Okay, and this time that I'm sure that plan includes Pakistan.
I think that calls for some serious thought, sir. Sir, as a matter of
Yeah,
fact, one of the biggest thing that has come out of this entire fiasco is that the Pakistanis normally have a great plan. You know, like the 65 when they attacked India, they had a great plan. Kargil, fantastic plan. But they're not thinking about what repercussions will come back from that plan.
look, Pakistan is a nation with a half a plan. This is their history. Okay, let me put it across. They went into Bangladesh and lost half the nation,
Mm.
half a plan. They didn't know what they were going to do, so they lost half the nation, all these generals. They came to Kargil with half a plan and lost it. They went into Afghanistan with half a plan and they're losing the plot there. Whatever Pakistani generals do, they do it half.
Half. Yeah, exactly.
The first half, electric, great, dynamic, but it's short-sighted and it's only half the plan. The other half is Gaya. You take any of the dictatorships, whenever the dictatorship has come, the first half of the dictatorship has been great,
Brilliant, yeah.
brilliant. The second half of the dictatorship has taken Pakistan 3 steps back.
From where it started, actually.
Yeah,
Mm. Interesting.
half a plan.
Interesting.
And all Pakistani generals and dictators have 100% plan. They all settle abroad with a
Some
lot
news.
of money.
There's some
Huh?
news that Bajwa
Yeah,
also
yeah,
got his Australian national.
yeah. He'll have. Yeah, one bajwa has gone, so maybe the second bajwa also will go.
I'm sure, sir. You also mentioned in your article some time ago that the deep state is now planning a replacement for Pakistan and somebody is being groomed. When do you see that happening?
See, I wouldn't say that they're planning. They already that thing is already playing out.
Mm.
See, at some point of time, Imran Khan will become useless to them. Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years. He's dated. So they'll need a new guy in chair. And they're grooming Bilawal Bhutto for that. If you see, say, 3, 4 months back, when there were all these opposition parties got together and they were, going against the PTI government. Okay, and I've written articles about it. So everything was going fine till one day Bhutto stopped speaking against the army,
Army. Mm.
and then he started talking for the army. Okay, and there were cartoons which came out that Bilawal Bhutto has parachuted out of that arrangement.
Yeah, and the puppets thing and this and that. Mm.
So now you suddenly see him, in fancy dresses, praising the army. So it's very clear. Maybe in the next 4, 5 years, you'll see him being
Brought in.
put in chair.
Interesting. Sir, the last question, of course, Pakistan. It's not a surprise to anybody that Pakistan is in economic doldrums. They've been, putting across pretty much everything for rent. The Prime Minister's residence almost went for rent and then was brought back. Actually, one wedding actually happened there,
Yeah.
which
Talk
they
back.
hushed it up very, very nicely. They were all photographs were removed and everything was done. My question to you is a little larger perspective, sir. Is the nukes next on the block because they've kind of hired out everything else, or
That's a difficult question.
is there
That's a
crown jewels actually?
that's a difficult question. Uh, because we don't know where those nukes are. And I'll give credit to Pakistan because if it's their crown jewels and they would have kept it safe and sound. And they're not fools to give it to some terrorists and all that. Because the moment it is given out to a terrorist, that's the end of the story. And if one nuke is fired anywhere, the whole world will turn against Pakistan. And that's the end of the story. Right? So that would be kept very safely under the strict control of the deep state.
Hmm.
I don't think that will restrict. And of course, they will have the red lines X, Y, Z, but I don't think those nukes are loafing around in you know, they are under, they would be safe. And because that's their last insurance, they'll never let it go.
I think that is the underlining factor, that the last insurance. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That is very, 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 I think because one of whatever said and done, the Pakistanis have never been caught with their pants down with regards to nuclear sort of this thing. They've had multiple mess ups with regards to a whole lot of things. But this is.
But they're very clear about it. Yeah. Yes, I agree. Yeah.
So is there insurance for ensuring that India and USA don't literally rampage?
They're not. They're going to be very. It'll take time. You have to dry them out. Funding. The whole thing is about funding. And the difficult part is that China will not let it dry out.
Yeah. And this is something that we've spoken in the last.
They'll proliferate and right, and China will not let it dry out. So we should be very realistic in what we assess.
Of course, yes.
Okay.
It is important for everybody to understand that the Chinese feel indebted to the Pakistanis for bringing them up.
As far as fundamentally, if you can keep Pakistanis looking inward, they're okay.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. This has been an interesting discussion on Imran Taliban Khan. Actually, that's what we opened it with, and we've gone through the Pakistani scenario with regards. One of the biggest things that people miss out is the whole Pashtun thing, which is surrounding the Durand Line, and it's going to keep Pakistan looking westwards for a long, long time to come. No matter how hard they try and push the Pashtuns into Afghanistan and say, you get your whatever you want to rule and all that, get it there, but it's not going to happen. These lands, and I was, I'm sure that you will agree with me, they've been Pashtuns for 10,000 years, Muslims for 1400 years, and Pakistanis for 70 years. So they're not going to accept anything of this sort. And it's something that is going to break Pakistan, not in the rhetoric way that we see on our television, that in 4 pieces and this and that, but it's going to break them internally with regards to their security. And it's going to be quite a challenge for the Chinese, who are looking at, keeping a grab of that area so that for their own purposes.
Yeah.
Of course, the general also brought out very interesting points about the United States, that it's a hands-off approach for the USA. We've all seen the news articles of B-52 raids being conducted, and I'm sure all of us are aware that these B-52s are flying over Pakistan. So the chances of them actually doing something within Pakistan, in case and scenario, whenever they do need it, is not very far away. And that's something that has happened before. Obama had ordered it. Drone strikes have happened. Massive attacks have happened on the border regions where a lot of Pakistanis actually got injured. So I think, as I agree with you when you say that this day is not very far away. And of course, internal politics of Pakistan, where, Sir is quite confident of the fact that Bilawal is being groomed. And one can see that happening because he's just been put out from the limelight. He's not giving any controversial statements. He's not kind of, he's keeping his nose clean at the moment. So for him to die down in the press before the big move actually happens. Thank you, sir, for this analysis. And, we'll catch up on another subject another day, sir. Till then, Jai Hind.
Thanks a lot. Jai Hind.